The Monster Hunter Wilds Beta 1 is about to go out, and I wanted to try it, but the servers are still not up, so I didn't see the time. But the beta, 23 gigabytes, the full game should be around 70. But I got a surprise here that there's actually a benchmark tool, which is the same size. So let's run into that, see the settings and what to expect in performance to see if it's any better or if it will be playable at the end of the day. So when the game starts, after the shader compilation stuff that will take a while, on the Steam Deck at least, the game asks me right away if I want to use frame generation. That's not a good sign. For now, we'll put no, but we can enable it later. Okay, so we loaded the benchmark. Again, the shader compilation pass, the first one, took me 20 to 30 minutes to complete, which is kind of insane. Imagine how the full game with 3 times the size it will be. So 800p, all these I left it as default. Then when it comes to graphics, by itself is on the lowest settings, which makes complete sense. It's a Steam Deck. Ultra Performance FSR by default. There's also XeSS, as you can see here at the right. Frame generation, we might enable it later. Ultra Performance FSR, which is super low resolution. Texture quality on the lowest texture filtering, meshes as well on the lowest. Fur. Then if you go here, you actually have way more options, which is good to see, but everything is on the absolute lowest. And then when it comes to all this, variable rate shading is on performance, but basically everything is on the lowest settings with Ultra Performance FSR. Also, by the way, the aspect ratio only supports 16:9 and 21:9. There's no 16:10, so black bars at the top and bottom of the screen, as usual when it comes to RE Engine games. Alright, so once we start the benchmark, remember this is Ultra Performance FSR, it's basically 33% resolution, 33% 800p, below 300p, basically. You can clearly notice that it's a super low resolution, but at first glance in this cutscene, it looks like, okay, we might be able to get 30 FPS, this is without frame gen. But let me get a little bit more ahead when action starts picking up, because it can get very demanding, so let's skip ahead. Okay, took a few seconds, but here we are. And I think this is a good benchmark tool actually, in comparison, for example, to the Wacom benchmark that was like a camera panning around. This is actually how the game will look like. Very pixelated, first of all, and it's still below 30 FPS with lots of drops into the 15 FPS range. And you might say, oh, maybe you can use frame generation. Yeah, but it's very inconsistent when it comes to the frame rate, and the frame rate is very low. So we might stay over 30 with frame gen, but first of all there will be input lag, and second of all there will be ghosting. So you have a very low pixel count, below 300p, plus ghosting, plus input lag. So yeah, I don't think, at least right now, it's playable on Steam Deck. I mean, just look at that once you get into the meat of the game. I mean, I think it makes no sense to play this on Steam Deck. Clearly, RE Engine games are not great performers when it comes to open world stuff. We saw that with, actually, Dragon's Dogma 2. Open world, it ran horribly on many machines. That means on Steam Deck it's basically unplayable. So yeah, the fact that they actually ask you, hey, you want frame generation at the very beginning of the game as soon as you launch it, is a bit sus when it comes to what performance to expect. Again, lower settings, Ultra Performance FSR. So yeah, it's not consistent, it's clearly too heavy for Steam Deck, and of course we're pushing the resolution way too low in order to be able to even hit this frame rate. Imagine how it would be if we increase the resolution a bit with, I don't know, Performance FSR instead of Ultra Performance. So yeah, at least the impressions I get from this benchmark, which again, I really like this benchmark, shows cutscenes, gameplay, everything that you need to actually see how the game will perform is here. Also the shader compilation pass, while it's good to have it for avoidance of stutter while playing the game, this one actually took like 20 to 30 minutes to compile shaders. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, now we started with frame generation. As you can see, it says 50 to 60 FPS. As a base, this was 30 something FPS in this section in particular. So basically you double that, you get 50 to 60, but we got, again, interpolating frames. It's frame generation at the end of the day, not real 60s. So since this part was into the 30s, it makes sense. But again, input lag because the frame rate is pretty low, and there will be artifacts because of the frame rate variability. When the camera cuts, there will be artifacts, especially at something moving from one side of the screen to the other, like you'll see right now. But looking at the size of the screen, like in this part, there are artifacts left and right. But again, we're talking about frame generation with a base frame rate of 20 something FPS, with drops into the 15 FPS range sometimes. So let's get ahead into gameplay and see what it looked like. So now into gameplay. As you could remember, in this part we were actually into the 20s, if I remember correctly, with a lot of stutter. Here that's not that different. We get 30 FPS, as you can see, with frame gen. Internally it's like 10 to 25 FPS, something like that. I'm not controlling the game right now, but I can tell you already, this will have lots of input lag. It looks kinda smooth. There's a lot of stutters here and there and artifacts. Let me enable manual GPU clock at 1600 because many of you guys asked me about it. There it is. And well, what to say? The number says 30 something FPS, but there's input lag. We're at below 300p resolution, and it still drops below 30 when stuff shows up on the screen, when anything interesting is going on. So again, I wouldn't really recommend this game on Steam Deck, definitely, especially considering how many sacrifices you need to do. Even again, with frame gen, we get drops below 30 when we're moving the character. So that's it for now. I'm very happy that Capcom released this benchmark. I think it's a pretty good reference, considering they show you cutscenes, gameplay, something stressful happening, like all those storms while you're like running around and seeing grass popping. That's awesome, in my opinion. Very transparent when it comes to show you how the game actually runs, which more companies should do. Not like the Wukong benchmark that was like a camera panning around terrain. This is what I would call a realistic benchmark tool, so good job on that one. I'll revisit the game once it releases in around 3 weeks from now. I don't think it will be much different from this, but yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.